This is HistoryNET reviewing Far Cry Primal with Jackson Wheat. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right today. How are you? And I hope that sounded all right.
Could be better, could be worse.
Okay.
Far Cry Primal is a video game that was released several years ago that takes place in the Mesolithic era of the Stone Age, between the Upper Paleolithic and the Neolithic.
Yeah, it's a very interesting game.
You
Kind of
play
mixes a lot of elements.
Yeah. You play a Cro-Magnon tribe leader whose friends were killed in an ambush by a saber-toothed tiger while you're hunting mammoths. And you go throughout this new valley you migrate to and unite mankind against other prehistoric creatures and other types of human. Strangely, though, the Neanderthals are also present, which died out like 30 to 20,000 years before the game takes place, which is 10,000 BC. Like young Earth creationist time, that's before the beginning of the universe. Keep that in mind. And your other rival tribes are Proto Mesopotamian colonists, which is 5,000 years too early.
The Izila.
Yeah. And the Neanderthal tribe will be the Udam, which is obviously a reference to the Ulam tribe, who were the protagonists of Quest for Fire. You haven't seen that? Go and watch it.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
So, how accurate would you say this game is?
Not terribly. Yeah, like you said, there's the Udam tribe, which you see you see very early on when you're like rescuing the woman from the saber-toothed cat. That's when you get the first good look at him. You see they've got the large brow ridge and the large nose and everything, or a very prominent brow ridge. And like you said, you got the Mesopotamians or the Proto-Mesopotamians who are far too early. So you've got a lot of anachronisms kind of being weaved together. You've also got anachronisms in terms of fauna, from what I can tell. For instance, I was just the other day, because I was thinking about this while I was playing. I came across what I think was a brontothere in the game, because the game has its woolly rhinos with the big horns, but there's another group of rhino-like odd-toed mammals called brontotheres. They're more closely related to horses, though, than rhinos, even though they look more like rhinos. And I came across one in the game, but as near as I can understand it, they had been long extinct by the Holocene. So
I think cave bears were also extinct by that time.
Yeah, possibly. The mammoths were on the decline. There weren't a whole lot of the last mammoths to survive were with the Channel Islands mammoths, I think, which were these dwarf mammoths out in was it off the coast of California, I think.
Yeah, there's a variety of other species of animals that were probably not around in that area. The game takes place somewhere between Germany and Poland.
Does it? Because that's interesting. Yes. I would have figured it would have been in Southeast Asia based on the fauna. It has dholes, the dogs that are running around. That's a Southeast Asian canid.
And strangely, they're South American jaguars.
That's right. Yeah. They also have tapirs, which are in Southeast Asia and also South America. So yeah, a real mix of fauna.
Once you think of the game as time compression, you can have more fun with it.
Right.
Like the movie 10,000 BC, that drove me nuts.
I vaguely remember that. That was the one where he saves the saber-toothed cat, right?
Yeah.
And there's like they use the mammoths to move. They were building ziggurats, wasn't it?
Ziggurats and pyramids, which was thousands and thousands of years too early.
Yeah. I remember bits and pieces of that, not a whole lot. But yeah,
I enjoy Quest for Fire a lot more better.
I'm not familiar with that one.
It came out back in the early '80s, and basically they look for fire. This was before humans made fire from scratch, before they had to steal it from nature. And these Homo erectus tribes ransacked the Neanderthal dwellings, and yeah.
I think the oldest continual fire, or the oldest man-made continual fireplaces are a few 100,000 years old, if I remember correctly. I don't think there's anything, any man-made fire pits older than that, older than a few 100,000 years, which kind of ties into softening foods, which had an impact on our jaw size and tooth shape and all of that, which combine that with making tools and pseudogenization of certain muscle genes. And so that's why we have much reduced musculature or jaw musculature when compared with other great apes like gorillas and chimps.
The discovery of and the use of fire is the next major step in human evolution after the primitive tools used by Australopithecus, and then further made sophisticated by Homo habilis.
Yeah. The Oldowan and Acheulean tools are the oldest industry. Are the oldest industries. Then the Neanderthals had their own specific tool industry in Europe, I believe, which was the Mousterian industry, if I remember correctly.
It may have been either Homo habilis or Homo erectus that discovered fire. Not discovered. Started using fire about 2 million years ago, if I remember. Like by the time the game starts, it's already well perfected. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can just light your spear and start attacking things. It's also very sadistically fun to shoot flaming arrows at them.
Yeah. And you can upgrade your weapons. That when you come across all these plants and wood and rocks, which it would be wise to pick them up every single time you come across them, because you're going to need them sooner or later.
Yeah, definitely. That's another anachronism. The grapple hook.
Yeah.
No one was probably running around with grapple hooks 10,000 years ago, scaling vertical cliffs and all that.
Not that we know of, anyway. But we do know. Yeah, but we do know in the Mesolithic era that tools were more sophisticated than they were during the previous Upper Paleolithic time.
Right. Yeah, I guess I'm not really surprised they had a grapple, because I think most of the other games feature a grapple hook. I know Far Cry 3 certainly does.
And what makes this game unique is that it's just about the only video game I can think of that takes place around the time of the like when you start to use can't remember what was it. Anyway, yeah, but it takes place. It's one of those rare games that takes place during the Stone Age, and the only one that we know of that cavemen are directly involved.
Yeah. I think this game carries that title as the first, at least the first good caveman game. Yeah, I'm not familiar off the top of my head with any other ones, but I do really enjoy and appreciate this game. Of course, all the Far Cry games are fun as far as I played.
This is the only Far Cry game I've played, but it was developed by Ubisoft, the team behind the Assassin's Creed series.
Yeah, I've played a little bit of Assassin's Creed, but not a whole lot. What else? Their use of sort of animist religion. I
Right.
think that's sort of interesting. How, because I mean, you have a shaman who's got his mystical powders and whatnot. Yeah, and so he's doing all this stuff to help the different people, and it's like, well, we don't really know. I think the oldest one to date Hinduism, but of course that doesn't go back to 10,000 BC.
Right.
None
Religion.
of the Go ahead.
Yeah. Religion in general goes back 50,000 BC, around the time of behavioral modernity, which, according to older creationist chronology, would be when Adam and Eve lived.
Intriguing.
And in this game, you play Cro-Magnon and unite mankind for the first time since then.
Right. Yeah. It's this is like the major coming together of the Homo sapiens, because the Neanderthals and the Azila, who are also Homo sapiens, they all seem very they're in their fairly large groups also, but of course we're the good guys, so we're uniting all the good guys. But I do think it's interesting that it's this animist religion, which I guess kind of makes sense. There are a lot of that's kind of I guess that's considered by to be like the primitive form of religion. Generally, it's like the animism, and then you have a set of deities or a deity, and it kind of progresses from there.
There's this statuette of I can't pronounce how you don't know how you pronounce it. It's called the L something. There was a statuette of a cave lion, which they may have seen God as back then.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. The Udom have the very famous statue of the woman, which was not made by Neanderthals, but
yeah, there's problems with that.
Yeah.
The stone woman may have been. You could either look at it two ways. You could look at it as a statue of God back during the Upper Paleolithic, or just a random carving of a Cro-Magnon woman. Like there's numerous ones of those. And the Neanderthals did not have religion that we know of.
Right. It's very the arguments for Neanderthals having religion are very contentious, and since we really don't have any, well, I mean, culture in general is very hard to preserve through the fossil record.
Yeah.
We have a few smatterings of evidence for fire throughout the recent fossil record. We have a few tool industries over the past few million years, but what was the culture of different tribes of Homo erectus, for instance, if they had culture at all? Well, we'll never know, probably, because these sorts of things don't lend themselves to be incorporated into the fossil record.
Yeah, there's this really good documentary, you've probably seen it, Walking with Cavemen. They've shown Homo erectus like 2 million years ago, and then they fast forward 1 million years ago and see what tools are they using now. It's the same stone axe that Homo ergaster, which is basically the same species, used 1 million years beforehand. Their technology has not advanced in all that time.
Yeah, well, when you were taught by your father, who was taught by his father, who was taught by his father, to bang two rocks together to make a little hand axe, why change it?
Yeah, like you don't think about it, you just do it, like how a bird builds his nest.
Right. And there's interesting talk about, did they leave certain tools in certain places while they were hunting, so that when the antelope and whatnot migrated, would they come back to these same locations where they'd bury their tools the year before, so they wouldn't have to craft tools as they went, really, which I think is an interesting idea.
As for the religion of the Proto-Mesopotamians, the Izila, they were basically sun worshippers.
That's right. Yeah, they're very obsessed with fire.
And for some reason, there's this. They were painted in blue, which is kind of references the Mayans from Apocalypto, which themselves were based on the Aztecs. But
it's a daisy chain of wrong, isn't it?
yeah, oh, it's
Wow,
no, so
that's pretty funny. Well, you got to get them in somehow, I guess. But yeah, there are a lot of really interesting hypotheses as to how and what the early religions were like. But we might never know, simply because we're the last man standing, and we're the only organisms, it seems, that have religion, and the our closest living relatives don't display any religious tendencies, as we define it in normal sense, not like how Ken Ham and his groupies define it as like something you hold in high passion or high regard.
I was hoping not to profane this game review with his name.
Oh, sorry. We can cut that part out. But we don't really know if any of our other, or how far back religion goes, for instance, if it goes back very far at all.
We're pretty sure it goes back 50,000 years when the Big Bang of human consciousness took place, and then we started to create art and all those other things that make us definitively human.
50,000 years ago. Interesting. I'll have to read up on that, I guess, because the agricultural revolution was 10,000 BC.
Right, where this game takes place.
Yeah.
Not to do any spoilers, but for the epilogue, it's basically you start one of your tribesmen who you recruit starts to farm or plant seeds.
Okay. What is it? Because we kind of divide humans into the archaic Homo sapiens and modern Homo sapiens, and the Cro-Magnon are just one of the groups of modern Homo sapien.
And strangely, the Neanderthals were depicted as cannibalistic.
Yeah, I don't really understand that. It's like, well, I don't have any reason to suggest they were cannibals.
Like in the context of the game, they thought eating humans would gain them strength to withstand the bitter cold, the last push of the Ice Age back then.
Yeah, it's very interesting because, I mean, you want to withstand the cold, make clothes. There are lots of large woolly animals still around we can kill and skin to make clothes.
Neanderthals were also depicted as more sophisticated in this game, but also more brutish, which they probably weren't. Like, there's the stereotype that they were these dumb brutes, but that's likely not the case. We see animals that are more intelligent than that, like dogs and dolphins, and it would stand the reason Neanderthals were intelligent to some extent.
Oh yeah, I mean, we have records of them caring for like the disabled, for instance. There are skeletons of of people who were like disabled and showed signs of healing and whatnot, and so we could tell, okay, they took care of these people, and I mean, they were just our sister species, or just one of our sister species.
Right.
It was Homo sapiens, Homo neanderthalensis, the Denisovans, who were
the Denisovans were African Neanderthals, if I remember.
Oh, they were Asian.
Yeah, Asian.
Well, they weren't Neanderthals. They were another species. We were all different species, and there was limited interbreeding among all of them, which is why people of Southeast Asian descent have some Denisovan DNA, and people of European descent have some Neanderthal DNA.
And by the time that the Upper Paleolithic, which was defined by behavioral modernity, it was just us and Neanderthals who were copying us later on. But after they died out, it was also the Red Deer cave people in China, which, if I remember, died just a few thousand years before the game takes place.
I'm not really familiar with them. What were they doing?
What we know is that they were just cooking red deer in a cave, which is why they call them that.
Interesting. There is, interestingly enough, evidence of a there's another human species that was in, or that interbred with the Melanesians, but and it left some genetic evidence in modern Melanesians. That's really all we know about it. We don't have any fossils of it.
Yeah, that's the name of the people. They may be their genetic successors in a way, like how Caucasians and Asians share a bit of Neanderthal DNA since they interbred.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Anthropology sure is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you had your Erectus, who left Africa and went all over Eurasia, and then later you had the Homo sapiens and Homo neanderthalensis branching out of Erectus in Africa, who then also left Africa and colonized elsewhere.
Ergaster and Erectus were the same species, right?
Yeah, Ergaster is sometimes called the African Erectus.
Yeah, and the Erectus in China or the Chinese Ergaster. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, it also depends on which anthropologist you ask, because they get into bar fights over this kind of stuff.
But as for religion, the earliest we can trace all the modern religions today and throughout history go back to the Proto-Indo-European religion, which also recalled first man and woman, tree of life, serpentine divine being that stole immortality from man, God battling the chaos dragon, stuff like that.
I think Trey the Explainer did a video about that.
Yeah, he did that on his Leviathan video.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. That was a neat video.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's kind of interesting. I mean, you got to have an origin story for the things you see in your everyday life.
Right.
Why do we wear clothes? Oh, we wear clothes because we were tricked and cast out of paradise.
Why do we eat meat?
Right. Why do we eat meat? Why do we do this? Why do we do that? And so you got to have a story which, not necessarily, wasn't necessarily just invented out of thin air.
Right.
It might have had some, kernel of truth to it, or it was just how they perceived something. They just perceived this time period, or they were told about it as time had gone on. The stories about their ancestors got more and more kind of out there. I think that was what the Mayans did with their rulers. Like, the ages of their rulers got longer and longer and longer the further you went from when they lived, or something like that.
Yeah, and like the Sumerian kings list, who were said to have lived tens of thousands of years, which is stylistic.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so it makes sense.
Also, the various Chinese emperors of the past were said to live that long ago.
Right. Yeah. Of course, flood legends have an obvious, basis in reality.
Right.
Everybody, you got to settle by a body of water, whether for fishing or for drinking. And then when it rains, it floods. And so,
and usually a man or a king survives on the boat and repopulates with his wife and kids.
Yeah, that's in a lot of Eurasian ones. Of course, the stories are all over the place. If you look at like Aborigines, I think there's like a rainbow serpent, or there's all sorts of different ones. I think Talk Origins has a really interesting page comparing different cultures of flood stories. But
there's also a language, the language of the game, which is Proto-Indo-European, which is why you can hear traces of Indian language. You can hear traces of Greek and
really
stuff along those lines.
Huh.
Yeah, like Oros was the Greek word for valley, I think.
Huh. That's pretty neat. I would never have guessed that. It's pretty interesting.
And the scenery is also heartbreakingly beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's extremely immersive, going from this lush, jungle to a forested region, with snow and everything. That's really as far as I've gotten. It looks like there might be some volcanoes or something on one part of the map, but I'm not positive.
No, I don't think there's volcanoes, but
No
there's
volcanoes.
there's snow mountains. You can just look. You can go in the tundra area at night and look up at the mountains. It's just beautiful how cavemen looked up at the night sky and mountains for tens of thousands of years and looking at all.
Yeah, I remember I heard someone once say the first scientist was an astronomer.
Maybe.
Because you got to look up at the stars and figure out when winter's coming or when summer's coming and which direction to go, things like that.
And during the day, there's the beauty of the lush, thick redwood forests of Germany or Poland, whichever which, back in the Stone Age.
Yeah, unfortunately, lots of stuff we don't really have anymore.
There's also Easter eggs in the game as well. There's a reference to Metal Gear, and reference to Assassin's Creed, and a reference to the Flintstones even. You go at the bottom of a certain lake and you find the car Fred Flintstone used.
That's great.
Yabba dabba doo.
Yep, that is pretty funny. I actually used a picture of the Flintstones for a video I did on this guy named Beyond Science.
Flintstones archaeology.
Yeah, because he's like I don't think he's a Young Earth creationist. I think he's just a conspiracy theorist, but he was using Young Earth creation stuff. It's very bizarre. But regardless, that is pretty funny. I'll have to be on the lookout for that. Last time I was in one of the lakes, I got attacked by a fish, a large toothed fish.
Yeah, bite fish.
Yeah, the bite fish. I don't know what those are the analog of, other than horrifying fish.
there's there's also boss levels in the game, which are the saber-toothed cat that attacked your party at the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's this mega cave bear, and there's a pack of snow wolves, which when they work together, they're a deadly trio. And there's this giant mammoth in the tundra area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those are the boss levels apart from the leader of the Neanderthals and the Proto Mesopotamians.
I haven't come across. I mean, I know where the saber-toothed cat is. I see him on the map, but I have not gotten to him yet because I'm still kind of in the main area running missions and stuff. And just got the ability to ride mammoths, so that's something.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure cavemen weren't riding mammoths
or saber-toothed tigers either. But that's a fast way that's a reliable way of transportation.
Yeah. They also did that in wasn't it Brother Bear? They rode mammoths.
No. Just no.
Yeah, it's like no one was when you saw an elephant, you saw food or death, not a ride.
And after you defeat each boss level, you recruit them on your party and have them fight other animals, so you don't have to worry about being attacked every time you turn around.
Yeah, that's what I really appreciate about the wolf. Is that you have if you have the wolf with you or probably with saber tooth cats too, but all I have is the wolf. It scares off things like dholes and other wolves, so that they're not going to come mess with you because you've got him with you.
Yeah, you can train a variety of animals when you upgrade. You talk to the shaman, and then when you upgrade about weapons, you talk to one of the other Cro-Magnon you rescue and recruit to your tribe.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you also upgrade the village whenever you can and get as many resources as you can, because that'll help you further in the game. Also, when you attack the other Neanderthal and Proto-Mesopotamian forts, I said ports, There are forts, and reclaim them as your own, and bonfires set posts.
Yep, that's also a carryover from the older Far Cry games, the posts, because you got to do that in Far Cry 3. Go around and take the forts from the bad guys, and call in your guys to come and take it over and whatnot.
And go ahead.
Oh, I was. Oh yeah, I forgot the dog, the wolf. I think it's supposed to be like a kind of a nod to domestication of the wolf, but into the dog. But dogs had already been domesticated by that point,
right?
By like 12,000 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, there's a movie out there that came out recently. It's called Alpha.
Oh yeah, I never saw that. I probably should.
Yeah, you should. And also the Cro-Magnon village is fairly accurate for that time. The mud huts.
Yeah, I just got the you're just taking like furs and sticks and mud and whatnot, and fashioning these pretty simple huts. Of course, your character Takar lives in a cave.
Right.
He's the caveman.
And the Neanderthals, who were the cavemen, they just live in caves. And the Proto-Mesopotamians, they live in these lake houses that didn't come around until the later Neolithic times.
Yeah.
Like I said, time compression.
Yeah, they also the forts that the Udon build are very intricate forts. I mean, they have like spikes.
Yeah.
They take sharpened sticks and make them spikes, like ringing the camp, and things like that. Pretty sure that wasn't in use, but oh well.
They're more sophisticated, but more sophisticated and more sadistic in this game than in real life, probably.
Right.
Actually, if they have their own personalities, like dogs have their own personalities, but yeah, it would depend on the person.
I mean, they're just people just like us, a little bit different, but pretty much they were just our sister species. But yeah, in the game they're just brutish animals trying to kill you. So
yep, and so are the Proto-Mesopotamians, us basically.
Yeah, they're all about capturing people, burning things, and all that. And it's like, why?
Neanderthals eating people, and the Proto-Mesopotamians sacrificing them.
Yeah, let's leave that to the Aztecs to sacrifice people. I don't know, some that
wouldn't be far
sacrifice. Yeah, I mean, sacrifice culture has probably cropped up more than once. It might have cropped up in Eurasia also. I don't know what the frequency of that was.
Yeah, and the shaman Rafiki was burned up by the Proto-Mesopotamians, which is why. Yeah, that's why he looks like that.
Was he? Okay. Oh yeah, there's the guy who got his arm, the tool maker who got his arm eaten by the Udon.
Yeah.
A cruel twist of fate.
And he pisses on you when he meets you, literally.
Yeah. Yes, he does. Yes, he did.
And there's also the hunter, this old woman. It's old by then. She's the one that introduces you to the that points out the bosses on your map.
Yeah.
There's also the warrior that looks like Solid Snake. The bandana over his and his missing eye.
Oh yeah, I just met him recently.
Wait, not Solid Snake, Naked Snake, Big Boss. He looks like him, kind of.
I just met the guy with the bandana over his eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an interesting character.
And there's two more characters you have to recruit. There's you end up recruiting a Neanderthal and a Proto-Mesopotamian on your side. One will help you get inside information on the how to attack the Neanderthals, and then the Proto-Mesopotamian will do the same for them. And also, he'll be the one to start agriculture around that time.
Of course.
I didn't spoil too much, did I?
A little bit, but that's all right. I mean, the game's been out for a few years, so I think it's all right at this point.
Yeah.
Spoiling's a little bit okay. Is there anything else that is like out of time or really interesting about it?
Let's see. Other than the species of animal, there's certain type of fauna and flora.
Yeah, it is really their use of fauna is very interesting. It's a mix of places. Southeast Asian critters, plus like more northern animals because mammoths and woolly rhinos.
Basically, Stone Age, the feel of Stone Age Europe with time compressed together.
Yep. Fun times.
Yeah, and chronologically, it tends 1,000 years before the Assassin's Creed series, which itself spans human history, but it's within.
I played one of those.
Yeah.
I played the Revolutionary War one. That was pretty fun.
Oh yeah, you got to play the first one, the second one during the Crusades and the Renaissance.
Yeah, that's right. I do remember the Renaissance one. That one was very popular.
Yeah, that's almost unanimously considered the best one.
Yeah, I'll have to get it. It's for PS3, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Might as well.
And the Assassin's Creed Easter egg is where you help this one caveman that he tries to come up with all these inventions, primitive for that time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of gag jokes in there, but one of them, he jumps off a cliff and accidentally lands on. He tries to fly like with two bird feathers, try to accomplish human flight, but ends up falling down and landing on hay.
Yep, that does sound familiar.
Even the Assassin's Creed theme of 2 plays.
Oh yeah. That's interesting.
So, what would you say is accurate about this game overall, and how would you rate it?
I think in terms of a number of the fauna were around at that time. Mammoths, woolly rhinos, saber-toothed cats. These were indeed around at that time, but they were shortly to go extinct because due to climatic shifts and humans and other sorts of things. I think for the most part, a lot of the weaponry seems pretty normal for that time. Spears, bow and arrow, probably club. I don't know.
Yeah, likely club. The gameplay, if we forgot to touch on the gameplay, it is pretty good for that time, considering.
Yeah, it's the normal Far Cry sort of gameplay. All the controls are the same. It's hiding in bushes and running and all sorts of stuff. It's all pretty normal for the Far Cry games, which is pretty good.
Yeah,
it's pretty easy to navigate.
And so, would you on a 1 to 10 on the accuracy scale?
1 to 10 on accuracy?
Yeah.
I give it a 6, I guess. In terms of fun, 8 or 9, but yeah, accuracy, I'd give it like a 6. There are people and there are animals.
And both.
Yep. And so, but not at the same time.
Any closing thoughts?
Buy the game today, available in the App Store. And please, Ubisoft, send us money. We will hawk your wares.
go to GameStop at your nearest mall immediately.
Right, exactly. Is it the same company that made Zoo Tycoon?
No, it's Ubisoft. They're behind Assassin's Creed. It's what they're mostly known for.
They did Spore though, didn't they?
I don't know.
I think Ubisoft did Spore, but no, Zoo Tycoon is a different one. That's a
It's all
different.
with the snake.
No, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. No, that's not Ubisoft. I don't think. I know what you're referring to though.
I want to play Zoo Tycoon so bad.
Well, regardless, that's not what we're talking about, Savannah. But yeah, so really fun game, and I like it a lot.
Yep.
I'm glad I got it, and excited to continue playing it.
Okay, this has been HistoryNET and Weedy Jackson reviewing Far Cry Primal. See you next time.